Good day, ladies and gentlemen. It's Eric Coffin. I'm here at the January 2025 Metal Investors Forum in Vancouver. Uh, I'm I'm here with Colin Padget. He's the CEO of Founders Metals, and if you're paying attention to the sector at all, I'm going to assume you've probably heard of Founders. If not, you should definitely be paying attention from here going forward. Founders trades FDR on the venture. It's been one of the best performing stocks in the sector for the last year and a half, 2 years. With good reason. It's not a fluke. I mean, they've got a great project in Suriname, and you guys just keep finding new zones and hitting high grade. And I mean, and Antino just looks fabulous.
It absolutely does, yeah.
So there's been some big gains. What's 2025 going to look like? I mean, what do you do to sort of keep the momentum going?
I mean, the momentum for us, I think it's less now on more drill holes into Upper Antino and things we know. I mean, we're going to keep expanding that stuff, obviously, but it's really finding more Da Vinci's or more things like Da Vinci's. So a big focus this year and a big portion of our drill meters are going to go into, really getting out and testing. We've got 10 targets right now for sure that match or have the same characteristics that we see at Upper Antino that we use to really hone in on Da Vinci. So getting drills on those and putting 2 or 3 holes into each one of them. And I think the new discoveries are really the catalyst for this year.
Okay, and you've got four drill rigs going?
4 drill rigs turning. We've got 2 more on the way.
Okay.
Really to first make sure 4 are always running.
Yeah.
But it gives us the flexibility here down the road to potentially bring another one on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And obviously you guys you did a couple of large financings and brought in strategic investor late last year, so you're fully financed for all of this drilling.
Fully financed for the 60,000 meters that we've got scheduled for this year, and then some. So
Right.
There's some wiggle room there.
Okay, so you're going to be focusing on new targets. Is there any, are there any targets in particular that you really like? I mean, obviously you like them all. You're going to test them all, but do any of them stand out in your mind?
I mean, I got really excited about the Da Vinci stuff. With great grades, we're seeing those parallel shears. A big thing that I think maybe got overlooked by a few people is that it was all hosted in sedimentary rocks, which is important because it's the first time we've seen that. Now means every rock package that we have, all of the stratigraphy can host significant mineralization. But then lava as a whole is very interesting. And then I think I mentioned earlier, we're starting to drill on a target in between Da Vinci and lava. And that's kind of the first one of these new peripheral targets that are part of that exploration piece. I'm pretty excited about that stuff. So,
and can you give listeners a sort of I don't know, an overview, I guess? I mean, what is Antino? What kind of gold system is this?
Orogenic gold system, 2 different deposit types. So shear zone hosted gold. That's going to be your veins in these shears, typically fairly high grade, and for us, very high grade.
Yeah.
Then we also have the intrusion hosted piece. And that's the same thing, still orogenic gold. You still have a shear zone coming through, but the difference in rock means that you're getting veins kind of throughout a much bigger volume. And so the grades wind up being lower than the shear hosted stuff, but you get a much bigger target.
Okay. And so you're doing 60,000 meters this year. So the results have been fantastic so far. So where you're going to be drilling a bunch of new targets, where are you going to be sort of building ounces? And to be clear, I'm not expecting nor would I recommend a resource estimate anytime soon. I'm in that camp where if you're still growing something, you don't do a resource estimate. But where are you going to be sort of building ounces? You've got 2 or 3 areas where you're going to build the zones out in addition to testing for new stuff.
Definitely, yeah. So, I mean, Upper Antino is the obvious place, and I've been talking to people a lot about this, and we've got 4 drills, or if you think about it as 4 drills. 1 is going to stay in the Upper Antino area, but part of that is expanding a bit more to the north. Right now, we're drilling almost a kilometer to the south, where we've got a pretty promising target, and so it's really growing that trend building out along the limbs of that fold and that structure as a whole. So one's there. We've got another drill that will go back and forth, I think, between the Boise Lower Antino area, where we've already put out first round of results and had some really promising success.
Right.
The next one is everything else that would have a box on it on our map.
Right.
And then the fourth drill is testing things that have never been touched before,
Okay.
adding new boxes.
Okay. So yeah, obviously there's a bunch of targets that aren't sort of named on your maps yet. So what's the big picture game plan here? I mean, you guys want to get this thing to a development decision, and that's obviously down the road.
Yeah.
But how do you guys get from A to B? What's the big picture plan?
The big picture plan is like this year. We're not looking at that resource piece. We're focused on, and we've had a lot of conversations with some of our largest shareholders as well, and a lot of support there for just finding out how much there is or how many of these. It's not how big is Froyo, it's how many Froyos are there,
Right.
And really pushing for that. And then at the end of this year, at the end of the 60,000 meter program, basically taking stock and making a decision from there. Where do we go and do that infill and work towards a future resource down the road from that?
Right.
But really, it's the focus is all that. On top of it, as far as on the corporate side, there's looking at adding ground around us. I think
Right.
there's opportunity there with an application we have with the government to add quite a lot of additional ground contiguous with Antino today, and property immediately north of us as well. We're in conversations with those guys that we've made some recent progress on,
Right.
and then consolidating really the asset as well. A relationship with the vendors or the offshores is very
Right.
good, very, very supportive, in-country logistics, connected, all of that. But they're also quite keen to come on as founder shareholders, and so it's finding that right number. But
Right.
I think we can do that this year.
Yeah, the idea is to take it to 100% ownership, and they get equity for it. And that's like these large amounts of new ground that you're adding. Do you know much about that? I mean, do you have a bunch of specific targets, or is it just that it's the same rocks in the same area type of thing?
Well, same rock, same area, but there was some historic work that was done on the area immediately north of us back in kind of early 2000s. So there's a lot of that kind of auger sampling, a lot of the same base data that we had for Antino, but probably 2 or 3 times the amount of gold as far as historical production came out of that property relative to Antino.
Okay.
So there's a lot of historic ounces that have come off the alluvial or saprolite type mining. And there's mining on the ground right now where you see visible gold and quartz veins. That's what they're working. So
Right.
there's opportunity there. Further north into that kind of bigger package, we see underground operations. There's usually, if you're going underground
Yeah.
as a small scale miner, you're
Yeah.
into something good. So there's lots of things to go after, I think, really early on.
And then there's been some talk, and I don't, I'm on the fence about it myself, but there has been some talk about you guys maybe doing, early production off the tailings, as it were. I mean, basically there's a lot of very large alluvial workings on Antino, and along with those workings, of course, is the tailings, and by and large, those guys weren't getting particularly high recovery. So those tailings actually have fair gold grades,
Yeah.
and they're, it's just basically shovel it into a mill. There's no drilling, no blasting or anything. Obviously, it's just tailings. Is there serious thought being given, or any thought being given to looking at that as an early production scenario?
I think so. So that conversation has evolved, I think, with the exploration success. And at this point, the tailings, we're looking at that more thoroughly as that early production or early mill feed, where we take where the mill is rated for, and you're able to add over the top with that material.
Right.
So getting some augering through it and really defining what's there and understanding how it might fit into a future resource or a future plan.
Right.
That's more the focus, I'd say, today.
Okay.
We had, with the Boise results, I'd say we were surprised at how thick the tailings were in places we didn't think they were necessarily that thick.
Right.
Up to 15 meters in some of the drilling, and that wasn't on top of a tailings pile.
Right.
So there's a lot there.
Yeah.
But there's some work to be done to define it and then add it into a future plan.
Okay. Okay, there you have it. Founders Metals, FDR, and the venture. It's been fantastically successful stock, but it's because it's been a fantastically successful exploration program. Company's very well financed. Share structure is tight. The float's not that large, and with 60,000 meters, it's just going to be, news release after news release after news release all year long. Great story. I mean, if you're not paying attention to this thing, you really, really need to be. Founders, FDR, and the venture. Thanks for coming by, Colin.